moment. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So I'm Dan Winter, fractalfield.com, fractalu.com. Today I'm joined by Jason Matozo, fractalwater.com, follow up to theimploder.com, and amazingly, Jason's new partner, collaborator, interested friend, Garrett Smith, who is the nutrition detective. Is that right? Which has
That is correct.
amazing following, amazing work, and lots to sell on it. The Nutrition Detective and the relationship to implosion, the imploder, solubility, and detox, and getting the bad stuff out. Dot dot dot. This is a fun conversation, and Jason's been doing his homework. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, Dan, and thank you, Dr. Garrett Smith, for joining us today. Um, so I came across your information through Thor Thorns on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it now, and obviously that led to you and your nutrition detective information, which is extensive. Now, what you talk about is something that we've all been told is very good for us, good for your eyesight, etc. And this is something called vitamin A. Now, you're saying that if you eat a low vitamin A diet, you get all of these great health benefits, where improved blood picture, breakdown of kidney stones, decalcifying of the body, decalcifying of cholesterol in the arteries, etc. And I noticed that that is the same exact health benefits you get from drinking magnetic water or imploded water, our fractal water product. So I wanted to see what correlation between the low vitamin A diet and water was. And I went down that big rabbit hole like everyone else has done, and found out that all of the foods that I've been eating my entire life, because I'm Italian, are not that good for you, right? We're talking about tomatoes, nightshades, and foods that are high in vitamin A, like Italians we eat Parmesan, right? And that's goat milk that has a higher amount of vitamin A in it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a nice playful talk to introduce the audience to what vitamin A is, why is that in the food supply, and steps that you could do to maybe detox that vitamin A from the body. So Dr. Garrett Smith, can you talk a little bit about maybe how you found out about it and your background as well? Because you have an extensive background from CrossFit, from all kinds of different disciplines. So if you want to take that from here.
Sure, yeah, I'll just kind of go into my background and then we'll go into how we I'll try to spin it into how we arrived here. So I started in fitness when I was like 11 years old. Concrete dumbbells in the backyard and doing all that stuff, and that led to nutrition. Well, that led to fitness tends to lead to nutrition. Nutrition led to me paying attention to what I ate and how it made me feel. Like dairy would give me tons of phlegm and mucus. And I also learned that aspartame equal NutraSweet would give me like very short migraine headaches. And after I figured those things out, that kind of started my suspicion, my skepticism of what we were fed and given and pushed upon us by especially the mainstream, and nowadays even by the alternative community pushing all the things that they do. So that, I got my degree in physiology with a minor in nutrition, tried some other fields, finally found naturopathic medicine, became a licensed naturopathic physician in the state of Arizona. I was just looking, it's now been 20 years that I've been in the naturopathic physician. I was always kind of a black sheep in my field because I was always willing to question things, even within stuff I was taught in naturopathic medicine. It made for fun school times with the professors. But even like herbal medicine, people can be all into herbal medicine. They'll say it's natural medicine, it's plant-based, and it's from the earth. And I say, does anyone have an herb deficiency? And they say, no. And I say, okay, so then it's acting like a drug-like effect. It's specifically, I mean, 70 or 80% of the drugs out there are built, tweaked plant molecules. So how different, how unrelated are herb compounds from drug compounds we get into? So that's like the kind of stuff I did. And I was into fitness I was a personal trainer for about 12 years before I got into naturopathic medicine. So I saw a lot of things. That's kind of where I got started in helping people with analogies and other things. I gave them analogies for movement so that they could somehow feel it in their body by, picturing it in a different way and putting it in different manners for different people. And yeah, that just kind of got me into working with people, and then now we're here. So then we got into, well, we'll get into the hypercalcemia, the high calcium thing that I deal with. So about 2013, I got into hair analysis and in hair tissue mineral analysis. And when in hair analysis, calcium is very, very important as an indicator of metabolic state. And one of the first things I learned in there was that vitamin D supplements, cholecalciferol, would tend to, on a hair test, raise calcium on a hair test very high, like the body was dumping calcium out through the hair. And you would also see potassium go very low. And you'd also tend to see deficiencies in magnesium relative to calcium. So just this one supplement, I had been at the time when I got into hair analysis, I was recommending high dose vitamin D supplements. And I thought this was 2013. This was before the fad, before all the fads started where everybody's taking it in mega doses and all this stuff. And I was so into it that I was actually doing skin prick blood tests in my office because I thought it was that important. And I didn't, for people who didn't want to go to the lab or they didn't want to do a blood draw, I was like, we're going to do it here right now so you can figure it out. And lo and behold, everyone was deficient.
Somebody said that D3 is some of the D3 or D supplements are more like rat poison to me. Like scared me.
Oh, it's not like, it's literally, they are the same compound.
Rat poison. Ooh.
Yeah. If you go to, oh, here's the funny thing. So I remember I used to have a lot of clients or patients who would come in and say, well, I don't want to ever take warfarin or Coumadin. That stuff is rat poison.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it is. It is. And then over the years, as I got into it, you can go and, if anybody here, if you want to go and look it up, the brand's Terra D3, TERA, capital D, number 3. Like they literally
vitamin D3.
right. They literally put D3 in the name. And then there's another one. It's almost an even better name, capital D dash con. So they put the word con in the title and the D. So those, if you look at the active ingredient in them, you will see cholecalciferol, which is exactly what they sell us in a supplement. How does cholecalciferol? Oh, and then just so you know, warfarin or Coumadin is the beginner level rat poison, and rats and mice have been found to become sort of immune to that. So then the next level, the upgrade to the warfarin Coumadin death medicine is cholecalciferol. It's actually the next level when the warfarin stops working.
Yeah, my father was on Coumadin most of his life after his heart operation, and something I noticed their personalities goes to hell as well when your blood gets thin. Like it was,
Yep,
something wasn't right.
The skin gets thin. They start bruising all the time.
Something wasn't right. Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of start wasting away.
Yeah, my father. Yeah.
And blood clotting in the body, coagulation pathways are extremely dependent on proper calcium flow. So we always want to talk about what do we need calcium for, and then what is the importance of calcium flowing between the various compartments of the body that it needs to for nerve flow and muscle contraction and all these things. So when calcium gets out of hand, we get lots of problems. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so yes, vitamin D3 is literally rat poison. It was, I have research showing that back in the 50s, they were fortifying certain foods, including foods that were fed to babies with vitamin D, and they were literally having deaths from it in these young infants. And they said at the time that the story was it was a genetic problem, that these infants had a genetic problem. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, they called it vitamin D milk for years.
Yeah. Yep.
Ugh.
And these kids are dying. And then nowadays they're fortifying all these foods with vitamin D. And I'm going, did the genetic problem disappear? Or are they literally just still killing children? And there's been other times where they've over-fortified milk with vitamin D and children have died. And now there's people who have over-supplemented vitamin D and they're dying.
Yeah.
And then I have research showing that the South African government during apartheid actually studied vitamin D as a literal potential tool for genocidal purposes because the doses are so small.
Wow.
They're micrograms. So anyway, the history of it is very interesting, but it does lead to hypercalcemia. What excess, and the problem that people will say is they'll say, well, the dose for rats and mice is way higher than people in terms of like the acute dose to kill a rat or a mouse. And how does it kill the rat or mouse? It causes hypercalcemia. Too much blood or too much calcium in the blood. Okay, what does hypercalcemia then cause? Well, it depletes all your clotting factors, and then the mice or rats bleed out, which is
Oh,
funny because that's what cumin and warfarin do to them too, eventually.
Ironic.
So we have that connection. Then we have, okay, so then where does that calcium come from? How does the vitamin D, vitamin D is not calcium. So how does vitamin D raise the calcium in the blood so high that it literally kills humans and animals? It yanks it out of the bones, which is exactly the opposite of the story we're told, right?
Yeah.
Right? We need vitamin D to build bones. And I go,
Uh-huh. Hello.
I don't know.
It's
Now,
like
so,
my mother died of her osteoporosis, and they told her to
mhm.
take calcium. And really, the problem was that the sugar was taking the calcium out of her bones. But keeping the soluble in bone is also going to get us to a question about implosion induced solubility later. So that solubility issue is central. But please go ahead.
No, I want to tell you like the solubility thing is interesting because I wish my lovely girlfriend Kelsey was here because she's much more into the chemistry than I am.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we've actually been bringing back to the forefront of nutrition is actually how MSG as monosodium glutamate actually changes the solubility of things like toxic metals so that they stay insoluble so you can get rid of them so they're not getting sucked back into the tissues. And she has a whole chart on the solubility complex or solubility
Interesting. Mhm.
measures of that. And we've been seeing amazing results. Like, so here in the West, we're told MSG is like the worst thing you could eat when
Mhm.
glutamate is actually the most present neurotransmitter in the entire body. And we have a specific taste receptor called umami for it, and we crave it. And yet it's somehow so bad for us. So we just keep getting sold all these incorrect ideas.
Mhm.
So anyway, but that does affect the solubility, and we've been seeing really impressive results on hair tests in terms of toxic metals and copper toxicity and other things getting better with people who are using MSG quite liberally on their food. So back to the calcium thing. So right, so back to the osteoporosis and the solubility thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so like you were saying, for your mother, the problem with calcium in the bones is that it's not that there's not necessarily enough calcium floating around. It's that the bones are not holding onto it,
Exactly,
right?
like soluble. What'll bond it? That's where we want
Right.
to go later in the conversation because the implosion creates what we call spin density, which is also
Mhm.
charge density, which creates that solubility and hydration and bioavailability. So solubility is everything, and implosion is related. So, but please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, so what I would tell people is I say it's not a problem of a lack of calcium. It's a lack of the calcium staying in the bone.
Mhm.
Okay, and it's getting pulled out and it's going into the blood and it's causing high calcium problems, which so this is the cool thing about a hair test. People might say, but doc, my blood test for calcium was fine. And I go, okay, your body has to keep the blood levels of the minerals, especially electrolytes, because they have electrical conductivity, aspects to them. It has to keep those very tightly regulated. Or else things like your brain and your heart that specifically really need to run on proper electrical charges start going wonky and could even literally kill you. Like, so that's a problem. So throwing more calcium and vitamin D, let's say, into the system, what they're trying to do is they're trying to force calcium to go back into the bone by,
Yeah,
I don't know, creating some sort of imaginary gradient or something like that just to force it in, but it doesn't work that way.
because it's not soluble. There's a
There's
certain
the solubility thing. Yeah. Go
So
ahead.
there's a certain irony there that my mother insisted on a sweet roll and coffee every morning for breakfast, which is, of course, the real reason the sugar took the calcium out of her bone because the demineralization comes back. But there's another aspect of that, which I discovered later, is that the charge density we call the imploder to make solubility is also related to the psychology. If someone's depressed, they lose solubility. If someone has access to bliss, they gain solubility. So actually, depression is dramatically related to solubility for very specific and understandable electrical reasons, because it's your access to charge. Anyway, I digress. Please, please.
No, that's very exciting. That's because I'm always looking for things to improve the program, and I've mainly been focusing on. I heard lots of people talking about structured water and other this and
Exactly.
other things, and I watched a lot of them, and I went, a lot of you are not getting as much better as I'd like to believe if what you're doing is so wonderful. The magnetized water, when I saw the research on that, the imploder water, I was like, this is an amazing amount of research on all these different components that there must be something to this. So
Well,
this is why
every government that studied magnetic water has agreed that it's beautiful for agriculture. Everybody knows. And when we first introduced our ultra imploder from Jason there in Ohio, every single farmer who had these damn deep wells in extremely hard water, as soon as they tasted it, they loved it. It wasn't because it removed the mineral from the water, because it added solubility, what's missing in hard water.
that
And these are Amish farmers.
Yeah, that's right. It's quite a story there. They bought them by the hundreds, $2,000 cans, just because the taste immediately. So you add solubility, which basically means that then you can taste things again. It's pretty cool.
wow.
So
Yeah,
I
so
think,
I sorry, go ahead, Jason.
no, I'm just saying that, magnetic water is great. It just seems like that's one Band-Aid for the overall picture.
Yeah, and we need your background to understand this picture a bit better. So we interrupted you, Garrett. Please
No,
continue.
it's totally okay. So
Yeah.
like we're always trying to think of like my three pillars of helping to fix people at this point have been reduce the toxins coming in, facilitate the removal of stored toxins, which is where this could really factor in. And then also in the next part is we're trying to restore proper levels of essential nutrients, which is it's not a huge list, actually. People think it's a huge list of essential nutrients that we need, and it's actually not anywhere near as many things as people think they need. And so if we can improve the solubility relative to body function of, let's say, getting rid of toxins and getting nutrients to go in, then we just facilitate the whole process even faster. So that's why I'm excited about this. So back to the bone thing, right? So when the body has too much calcium floating around in the blood, and it obviously can't put it back in the bone. Well, it has to put it somewhere, because if it stays in the blood, it's going to negatively affect the brain and the heart and everything else. So what does it do? It shoves it into soft tissues. It shoves it into the tissue of the brain, the tissue of the heart, the arteries. Most people think that, plaque is cholesterol, and it's mostly calcium. That's why they can see it on an ultrasound, or they can see it on an MRI, or they look. What do they find most diseases with when they first do an X-ray? Well, what is an X-ray really good at seeing? Calcifications. So we have these calcifications all over the body, and then people aren't doing anything to fix it, and they think taking vitamin K with their D is going to fix everything magically, and it doesn't. I have research showing that it doesn't. But then we get into, this is where the vitamin A part is going to become very interesting. So it was about 7 years ago, 7.5 years ago, well, 7 years ago now, that it was suggested to me by a friend of mine, Matt Stone, to read these free ebooks by Grant Genereux about how he seemed to have come to the conclusion that vitamin A was a toxin and had caused all his chronic kidney disease to the point where he was about to go on dialysis. It caused his jaundice, and it caused his eczema, really painful eczema. And he did his own research. He was an engineer by trade. He did his own research. He felt that the one thing that was common in the foods that he was eating was vitamin A. And he said, what the heck? I'll just design a low vitamin A diet. He did. And over a couple years, all those issues completely went away. And he did not suffer from any vitamin A deficiency symptoms. And so I read this, and I'm a very big fan of I don't care what anybody can justify with research by itself. Does it work in the real world? Well, so I started doing it. I read it and I went, I had been actually recommending vitamin A to my clients at the time. And they could feel better on it, but over what I saw over time, this is a difference between me and a lot of other practitioners, is I want to see people keep progressing in a good way over years. I am not interested in, do they feel better in a week? Do they feel better in a month, or just 6 months? I want most of our testimonials. We had 2 testimonials that I read on our show the other day. One was from somebody who's been doing my work for 3.5 years. Another one was somebody who's been doing it for 5. And they're saying all these issues that are common to people these days are all gone. And these are 2 women in their 60s. And so if we're doing things that are helping people in their 60s, like, we're not just using the magic of youth and covering it up with an herb or a mega dose supplement to make people feel better, we are literally fixing the problems that have been caused over decades and getting 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds better. So
But
I just
much
go ahead.
of that was related to a low vitamin A diet as well.
That is the crux of that is one of the cruxes of what I do. Now, for people to pigeonhole me and say that's all I do, no, it's far from my Love Your Liver program is like my life's work put together in a do-it-yourself thing that people can do for themselves. But it is a huge part of it. It is a major driving when we're talking about reducing toxins coming in and then facilitating toxins leaving. One of the big toxins we focus on is reducing, vitamin A coming in because you can't eliminate it. I actually just did a show about that where you cannot go to zero on it, and that's not advisable because that eliminates too many necessary foods. So it's a part of it's a part of nature, if you will. Plants make all vitamin A comes from plants. Like any vitamin A that somebody says is in dairy or liver is all plant sourced from carotenoids. Carotenoids are the base of all vitamin A, and then that's chopped into pieces, and then that becomes what are called retinoids in animals and humans. So all vitamin A comes from plants. And one of the things that people don't realize, a lot of let's say carnivores and other types will be happy to talk about anti-nutrients in plants. And they'll bring up phytic acid and they'll bring up oxalates and all this stuff. And I say, okay, and they'll say, but vitamin A, oh, we need a lot of it. And you got to eat liver and you got to eat egg yolks and you got to eat dairy and you got to eat brightly colored fruits and vegetables. And I say, no, you don't. And we're getting people better. We've had several people get their blood vitamin A, their serum retinol, to below lab detection limits. And they don't have any deficiency signs of vitamin A.
And there's some connection between the fact that the color of the veggie was dark and high retinol, right? Isn't that?
Well, so one of the main coloring, some people just say carotenoids are a plant pigment and they just kind of want to leave it at that. And they're like, oh, it doesn't cause any problems. And I'm like, it causes lots of problems. So carotenoids would be the highest in foods that are red, orange, yellow, or dark green. So then what are we told to eat, right? That's like most of the rainbow that we're told to eat. And eating the rainbow, some quick research finds that eating a rainbow was not really introduced as an idea in the US until 2005, where people learned about it from Sesame Street of all places. So
Yeah, but it was Jason who I think was telling me, my father and we had some prostate issues, and there's all these TV channels now that says, well, for your prostate, you take this dark tomato soup, lots of tomatoes, and
Yes.
and like the opposite of what Jason was just telling me, and I'm here like,
right.
Is like a tomato the solution or the problem?
Right. Very much so. Yeah. Well, here's an example that goes along with that since we're three men talking about this and we all have prostates. So my father in his 60s got prostate cancer. And he eventually, before I did not know enough to help him at the time, I was just getting out of naturopathic medical school, or I might have even still been in it when I was really trying to help him. And he passed before. He didn't tell me for like 12 years that he had it. That was kind of an inner family issue or like a personal issue of his that he didn't want anybody knowing about it. But that's, guys don't hide these things. Anyway, so what I found was, so that happened. And then I was in medical school in my mid-20s getting prostate-related urinary issues. My mid-20s.
Ooh.
And I'd been kind of a health nut for a while. And the crazy thing that we start to notice around is patterns of health nuts often seem to get worse. Like you can't go into let's say a healthier grocery store like Whole Foods and expect to see all healthy people. You actually see a lot of really sick people, and then they often start getting sicker because they are trying to eat what they think is healthy and they eat more vitamin A containing foods because brightly colored foods or whatever. They're sold the carnivore version of high vitamin A, or they're sold the vegan version of high vitamin A, or
carrots, tomatoes.
Yep. Or they eat the standard American diet, which is fortified with vitamin A. So they're trying to get us every single way. Do you know that in other countries, they fortify rice with vitamin A? They fortify sugar with vitamin A. They'll fortify cooking oils with vitamin A. They're now putting vitamin A into sports drinks. They put it everywhere. And yet, our own FDA has said that manufacturers don't need to list vitamin A on the nutrition facts panel anymore. They don't have to tell you how much is in it anymore
Oh,
because vitamin A deficiency is so rare in this country.
wow.
So apparently everybody's doing well on it, but they're fortifying everything with it, which is kind of weird. Actually, let me go back to one thing. The funny thing about vitamin D and vitamin A in the research is that they're known to be antagonistic. Okay, so one goes up and it tends to push the other down. Not always. You don't try to manipulate it like that. Don't take one poison to push another poison out. Don't. That's not good. But what I'm saying is, if we're being told there's this epidemic of vitamin D deficiency, and vitamin A is antagonistic to that, what if, as I claim, there is a worldwide vitamin A toxicity epidemic?
There you
And
go.
that is what is driving the vitamin D in our bodies down.
Primary indicators of vitamin A toxicity again.
Oh, so it can be just about anything. So I'll go back to my example. So I was in my mid-20s, prostate issues, go in naturopathic school, go into clinical shifts, trying to get help, seeing what they could do for me. And the stuff they did didn't help. And I was eating plenty of vitamin A at the time, nightshades, all that kind of stuff. And I have a paper on lycopene that showed that they don't talk about this paper much, but it showed that there was more lycopene in the prostate cancer guys. So
Yeah, and yet all these ads say you got to have a bunch of lycopene if you got prostate
yes,
issues. Something's wrong
yes.
with this picture.
Something's wrong. Things are being tweaked. I mean, tomatoes didn't even like when we're talking about what Jason's talking about with Italian, like tomatoes came back from the New World.
Yeah, they were originally thought to be a poison. Originally, they thought the first guy that ate a tomato on the church steps was going to die. They watched to see if they would die, and then when that person didn't die, they started eating tomatoes again.
Right. That's very much like the whole well, I mean, it's very much like the vitamin D supplements today where people go, well, I'm taking my vitamin D supplement and I'm not dying like a rat. And you're like, well, it's a slow poison.
Ooh.
There's something that's been ignored by everybody. So you can be acutely poisoned by something. However, if something is fat soluble
That's the
or
thing.
what I call fat storable,
Uh-huh.
then a small dose that is more than you get rid of on a daily basis will accumulate, right? Just like your bank account. If you put more money in than you take out, your bank account grows. Well,
So
if
then
you're
there's
taking in
too
go
much
ahead.
vitamin A in your fat, and then
Well, vitamin D or vitamin A,
okay.
whether if you're taking the supplements or you're taking the vitamin or you're taking in foods, both of these things can accumulate. I mean, vitamin A can accumulate in your tissues enough that people can literally turn yellow or orange.
Yeah. Jason said I looked a little orange when I was drinking carrot juice.
That's totally normal. I know a woman who turned herself orange from taking too much red palm oil.
Oh, yeah.
She had a bunch of it and she wanted to get rid of it, so she just thought she'd start taking it, and she literally turned orange. So these things do accumulate, and there's people, all the influencers on the internet are saying that vitamin A doesn't accumulate in your liver, it doesn't accumulate, and I'm like, it literally accumulates in your skin. Like you can see it. There's plenty of papers and plenty of evidence that this happens. But let's get back to the calcium thing and the solubility thing. Well, actually, I didn't finish the prostate thing. So I had the prostate thing, and as I've gone on in years, as I have worked on these theories and figured out things along the way. So I'm a 50-year-old man now. And over the years, I completely fixed my prostate issues. Like you don't hear about a guy having prostate issues at 25 and then not having them at 50. So we have that fixed. I fixed my chronic insomnia. I had the worst insomnia. I've fixed what I believe was an indicator of chronic kidney issues, which was I used to have a very, very stiff back a lot, which is typically it could be a referral pain from the kidneys because there was no physical reason that I was doing it that would come and go like it would, except for what I ate. And then I started connecting certain things that I would eat to the low back stiffness. And then when I took those out more, it didn't happen. What else was there? Oh, there's psoriasis. I did a whole show on psoriasis and the connections to vitamin A. And there was actually a research study with 12 people where they put them on a very low vitamin A diet. And something like 9 of the 12 of them by the end of, I think it was 8 months, some of them had that psoriasis completely disappear. Some of them had the psoriasis like 75 to 90% better.
There's an irony there because we were famous in the early stages of the imploder research. If you put imploded water in the spa and drinking, the solution to psoriasis eczema results were amazing. Super
Yes.
soluble water in the spa, excellent for psoriasis eczema. Again, solubility. So something.
Well, yeah, I mean, the skin is a major organ
Yeah.
of detox.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I kind of tell people about a detox priority by the body. Like first, your body would love to get rid of toxins through the liver, which then the liver dumps into the bile, and the bile goes into the gut, and then you poop out some amount of it each day based on things you're doing, things how often you're pooping, how much soluble fiber you have, whether you're using other binders, and so you best way to get rid of it is the bile, liver to the bile, out the poop. Then the second way, if things start backwashing or leaking, if the bile starts leaking into the bloodstream, the second way to get rid of it is the kidneys and through the urine. And then if the liver and the kidneys are not keeping up with their duties, then it starts coming out of the skin. So we can work on, I mean, we have people do things like use binders like charcoal or our zeolite or other things where they use them topically on the skin to help, or zinc, and we have a zinc and niacin salve that works really well, where they can try to get rid of it through the skin. But the idea is if you have a skin issue, you're like at the third level of detox. You want to
I
get
think
that
it's
down.
I think it's a
Go
good
ahead.
time for me just to read this little blurb
Hmm.
about what magnetic water does with clearing up some of those issues.
Sure,
And
yeah.
basically based on what we talked about maybe about 10 minutes ago. So magnetic water is very effective in breaking up kidney and gallbladder stones and
Mhm.
prevent further formation of stones in the kidneys and gallbladder.
This
It
is an actual
alleviates
actual study, right,
Yes.
Jason?
So this study again, it's from September 12th, 2017, in the Biomedical Science Journal by the Science Publishing Group, right? So it's not just some wacky study; it's an actual study, and it's saying that magnetic water is very effective in breaking up kidney and gallbladder stones and prevents the formation of stones in kidneys and gallbladders. It alleviates arthritis pain, reduces blood pressure, prevention and treatment of atherosclerosis, which is just the formation of a plaque in the arteries, right? So it's unclogging that. It helps unclog the arteries and veins of deposits of cholesterol and salts and normalizes the circulatory system. It's helpful in weight control and also mitigates environmental impact in livestock, increases milk production and dairy, and et cetera, and improves the blood picture and antioxidant status. So I think what we were talking about is that the bad effects of that calcification is mitigated through the magnetic water. But if you don't intox, you don't need to detox, right? Is that that's what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I'd like to take just a 1 second also. When Jason and I were originally designing the imploder, obviously the issue, the mechanism here is how does this compression effect called implosion increase solubility, hydration, and ability to wash out the poisons? And
Hmm.
the point I wanted to make was we did the research. The plus and minus magnetic pole actually are opposite to pole. One is more centripetal than the other. Most people don't know it. But if you put the positive side of a magnet on a toothache, the pain goes up and the healing rate goes up. But if you put the negative side of that same magnet on the same toothache, pain goes down. It's literally diffusing, but also healing rate goes down because it doesn't come to a focus. But once you know, and this is actually known, that the one side of the magnet is more centripetal than the other, then if you use strong magnetic flux aligned from both the centripetal sides, and Jason and I worked on that, that's increasing the compression effect and therefore the spin density effect, hence the solubility, and therefore so the magnetic implosion is parallel to this idea of increasing solubility. But this is wonderful. But so we need to get back to where Garrett was here then, right? Or yes, sorry.
No, no,
Yes.
that was really great because there's stuff that I talk about where like people will take certain supplements, let's say, or do certain things where it's slowing down their detox
Yeah.
and they feel better. And I'm going, you can't constantly do that or you're going to cause a problem. So just like you were talking about, where it's like it reduces their pain,
Yeah, but
but
it
their
reduces the
healing slows down.
focus. And the
Yeah.
focus is what sorts, because that's centripetal. That's called implosion. And the
Yeah.
sorting is actually the hydration solubility, which is spin density. Like if you can inhabit the center of spin density, like a lightning bolt, sometimes called bliss. But getting to that level of spin density, metabolic density, which is creating awareness density, is what implosion and we call it restored centripetal forces, or get fractal or get dead, which is actually the science of implosion. And we're very good at that, fractalgut.com. We've identified the origin of all centripetal forces called charge collapse. And I won't go into it today, but basically it's about implosion. Anyway.
That's that's amazing. I mean, this is all very great. So I forget where I was going, but with the vitamin A stuff, as I started avoiding vitamin A, and I was okay. So as I developed in my practice after the 2013, after I started learning about hair testing and what vitamin D supplements did to the hair test, I had to go and mea culpa and talk to my clients and say, look, I made a mistake. I know everybody's pushing vitamin D, or a lot of people are pushing vitamin D now. I know I told you to take it. I'm going to suggest you stop because I made a mistake. And
Yeah,
I'm
the whole
sorry.
COVID dance, everyone was taking massive doses of vitamin D3, and then we
Yep.
found out it's rat poison. And it was
Yep. And so then later on, I found out, like 7 years ago, I found out vitamin A was a poison too. And then I had to go and do this. I was actually recommending to my people anywhere from often 10,000 to 30,000 units of vitamin A a day, which is a lot.
Mm.
And I had to go and tell them, let's stop doing it. And I realized I was doing it on the hair. I was taught to do it on the hair test because vitamin A, being an antagonist to vitamin D, vitamin A would drag the calcium down. So just like they're both antagonistic. But the problem was it wasn't getting rid of it. It was just like a drug-like effect. You're just pushing on one button to help the other one help, but it's not fixing anything. As soon as you take people off the vitamin A, their calcium would start rising again. So I just finally realized I was like, this is not the way. And how does vitamin A raise the calcium in the blood?
Yep.
By yanking it out of the bones. Like this is literally, there's research showing that more than 3,000 units of vitamin A in a day for a person from all sources, food and supplements included, increases the risk of osteoporosis. Most people out there may be getting 3,000 units with their breakfast or
Yeah.
with their supplements. So you have this huge problem of all this calcium, the vitamin D supplements pulling it out of the bones, the vitamin A supplements pulling it out of the bones. There's a deficiency of magnesium. You got a deficiency of potassium everywhere. And vitamin A blocks potassium channels in the body.
And your
So,
government thought they were helping you by putting vitamin D and vitamin A and everything. But
well, yeah, it all depends on what you think of helping, whether they are in our best interest or not, which I am big on saying that there is, in my opinion, there is some deeper intention and plan to all of this. But yeah, I do think that
I think Dan
well,
just
that's
chalks it up to stupidity.
there is stupidity, and then I get to the same endpoint. I'm really just about getting people better.
Yes.
If we know what to avoid, if we know what to do, the deeper theories on it don't really matter because, they want to sell things, and if they're not selling things, then they go out of business, or at least people aren't getting sick from it. So if we can just get people better, and maybe they start doubting, maybe they don't, maybe they just go, well, everybody's just dumb. I know Thor Torrens tends to think that it's just stupidity too. I tend to think that,
are they evil or are they stupid? Well,
well, I think at different levels, it's different things. I think the lower level people are stupid. I think the higher level people may have some idea of what they're doing.
yeah. But the point is, education is empowerment. So we're here to explain. Now, does that mean we stop taking vitamins?
Oh, well, okay. Well, there's only one vitamin that we commonly use in our program, and that is flush niacin, also known as nicotinic acid. It is not any other form of niacin. We do not use any other form of niacin. So vitamin B3 as flush niacin has a disgustingly good amount of research in terms of, like, there was a study where they gave guys, I think they had already heart issues. They gave them 1,500 milligrams of flush niacin a day for 6 years. And then they had a group that didn't get it for 6 years. So 9 years later, so they had them take it for 6 years, stop. And then they looked at them again a 15-year mark. So 9 years after they stopped taking it. And they found lower rates of stroke, lower rates of cardiac death, lower rates of basically everything cardiac related in the guys who got the flush niacin. It was anywhere from like 15 to 25% lower risk 9 years after they stopped taking it. And so what did the flush niacin do while they were taking it? Well, flush niacin actually is part of the NAD. It helps produce the NAD that you need to run detox.
Valerie talks about NAD. Yes. Okay. Interesting.
So we're a huge, and it helps provide the NAD that you need to run. Well, so here's an interesting thing about vitamin A and detox. So you need NAD to run things like alcohol dehydrogenase and aldehyde dehydrogenase.
Mm-hmm.
Aldehyde dehydrogenase, I consider one of the most important detox enzymes of the entire body. So it's funny that ethanol, goes through ADH, alcohol dehydrogenase, and then it turns into acetaldehyde, and then it goes through ALDH, aldehyde dehydrogenase, and then it turns into acetic acid. So we know that ethanol is generally a toxin. Nobody really disputes that. Well, the crazy thing is retinol, as in vitamin A, what they call animal vitamin A, goes through alcohol dehydrogenase to turn into retinaldehyde, and then it goes through aldehyde dehydrogenase to turn into retinoic acid. So we have something that is a known toxin going through this detox pathway, and then we have something that is supposedly a vitamin going through a detox pathway, the exact same one that alcohol does. You start going, well, wait, why is one essential and the other one is known to be bad? So it doesn't, we start pulling apart the logic like this, and it starts to all fall apart. So on your question about other vitamins, I have theories on other B vitamins. Most of them are kind of like antidotes. So you know how you talked about the magnet, reducing pain, but also slowing healing. I think that most of the other B vitamins are antidotes for specific toxicities in the body. Like B1, I have research on it showing it adducts, it binds to various aldehydes. And so by binding to it, it may make it less toxic to you. So we have these people taking these mega doses of B vitamins, which they would never need in a other context. Or you have Merck doing their methylation, their B vitamin methylation science. I mean, literally Merck came up with, so if you're out there worrying about your methylation status, you're playing Merck's game. And so Merck came up with these methylated B vitamins that people then say, I need these and I need mega doses of these. And I tell people that, look, literally, if you needed mega doses of these methylated B vitamins or of other B vitamins to live,
that wouldn't be natural.
Right. It wouldn't be natural, but also genetically, if this was genetically handed down and it was a problem for multiple generations before they came out with megadose methylated B vitamins, your bloodline would have ended because you would have died. Somebody would have died along the way because they couldn't detox. Like people who are into the methylation thing, they'll be like, I can't detox properly. And I'm like, you can't detox properly because you're too toxic. That's the crazy thing. It's just like a car engine gets more gunky and you don't ever clean it. You start to have to push the gas to go the same speed. You have to push the gas down more because things are just not working as well. They're not as efficient. Well, your detox system, the more gunked up it gets, the fewer nutrients you have because you have to use nutrients to detox. The toxic stuff itself damages your detox machinery. And then your liver is actually literally storing toxins, which it does. Don't believe anybody on the internet who says the liver does not store toxins. We can look that up, and I've disproved that in multiple threads on Twitter. You just got to use the word accumulate instead of store. So we get into all this, and then we're just getting people better from things that they never thought they would get better from. And we have people with celiac who have said that that's completely gone now. And I go, oh, so an autoimmune reaction to a food protein has completely gone now. Interesting.
But we have somebody who has. But isn't the celiac the bad wheat, or is it? They can still think.
Could it be from? It could be from the gluten protein itself. It could be from the glyphosate in it.
Yeah.
It could be from other reasons. Either way. Oh, and celiacs. I have research. We didn't get into toxic bile paradigm today, but celiacs have been shown that. So bile is my toxic bile paradigm is kind of my medical paradigm changing narrative that so it gives people an idea of why they do certain things and then they feel so bad.
It could be a new view of anger named bile.
Well, it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, well, we talk about people who bilious is a
Yeah,
term
yeah,
literally for angry people. And in and in Chinese medicine, like liver qi stagnation
yeah.
is associated with anger and frustration. So we know that when the liver gets bogged down,
Hmm.
people get more angry. I found a study a couple weeks ago about, I think it was oh well I had a whole show on literally mental trauma when people are children have more liver problems when they get older.
Hmm.
So we have all these connections between mental stuff and physical stuff and biochemical stuff. And the that's why my program is called Love Your Liver, is because it is the root of everything. I mean, you can get so people get a liver transplant and tons of their diseases go away.
Just incidentally, in the physics of music, which I may be a world expert on, we've identified the wave shape of the difference between anger and love. And if you touch someone to say "I love you" and do a graph of the shape, the point of max pressure 0.618. Where if you do for anger, the point of max pressure is at 1/7, which is max destructive wave interference. So literally, anger is the electric opposite of conductivity and implosion, which means you know inhibit all interference, inhibit constructive wave interference, inhibit implosion, inhibit focus actually.
Wow, that's wild. Like I talk to people about how, like, one can create the other. You could get toxic and then get very angry,
Yeah, yeah.
or
And
you could just be very angry and then your liver starts to slow down because it's functioning on that same thing. So we
you
can
get
create it
bilious.
from both sides.
Those wave shapes are at goldenmean.info/touch. The research is called Centix, but it's very interesting. The geometry of wave shape in music shows the physics of emotion has to do with literally destructive versus constructive, which is to say implode or die. But anyway,
Wow. Jason, you were saying something?
No, I was just agreeing. This is a very great research.
yeah.
I'm listening as an audience member.
Well, I liked it when Jason started to telling me and got me turned on to you, Garrett. He was telling me what his low vitamin A diet looked like and giving me some advice. And I was like, oh my God, am I ready for that? Being vegetarian. But anyway, I was impressed.
Well, I mean, one of the things that actually I've seen with a lot of vegetarian and vegan folks is that they still, I mean, we all still need protein. Like protein is still building blocks, whether it's plant protein or whether it's animal protein. And one of the things that I think a lot of vegetarian people don't do is they don't focus on protein, especially from like beans, which is one of the biggest parts of our program that people often use a lot I mean, the lady who fixed her liver cirrhosis in our program did what was called the cowboy diet. She basically did red meat and beans. That was her meals 3 times a day.
Oh.
We've had other people get better with red meat and oats. And I'm not always on red meat. This is just the common thing. And then Grant's diet was what we jokingly call the prison diet now. It was red meat and beans and rice. And so we're definitely not against plant sources of food or protein and that stuff. We need to make sure one of the things that the detox system of the liver really runs on is it requires protein and amino acids to run.
Yeah.
And so, and I have a joking saying, but it's very true. I say for if somebody, because I was a vegetarian for several years in college, it ended up being, even though I was trying to emphasize protein and I didn't know back then I was eating lots of soy stuff, but I was still trying to shoot for 150 grams of protein a day. And yet I ended up the sickest and weakest I have ever been in my life. And I have a saying now that kind of came from that, which is your physiology doesn't care what your philosophy is.
Your karma ran over your dogma. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so, I mean, if people say, I don't want to eat meat, and yet their personal biological makeup does not really want to be meat free, and let's say they need a certain amount of meat to get enough protein, enough zinc, enough taurine, enough B12. I just did a whole show on eye health and all those things, not B12, but protein and taurine and zinc. If their body doesn't get enough of those things, it will not function as well. And their physiology doesn't really care what their philosophy is about, like not eating an animal. It just doesn't care.
And that problem you ran into, was part of it the soy problem? Was it the,
Oh, part of it was probably the soy, yeah, but
yeah,
I noticed after doing that that like they say that meat is very grounding, like right? Like fruits and vegetables are more like higher and
yin,
red meat and stuff is lower.
yang?
And I realized that once I started eating red meat again, I started feeling much more grounded.
Mhm.
And that was something that I wasn't doing well with when I was doing vegetarian stuff. So I just kind of went, okay, there's a certain amount. Like I've realized that there's a certain amount of red meat I want. I don't only eat red meat, but there's a certain amount I need to eat in a week, in a day or a week to really kind of feel as good as I want. I don't think I could replace that with plant foods. And so, but if somebody is choosing to do that, it can be challenging. Because I mean, there's taurine is a really necessary amino acid for the liver, and taurine is not found in anything other than meat. It's not found in eggs. It's not found in dairy. It's not found in these other places. And so it's something that like it just doesn't come, and B12 in general.
You know,
So people can go
there's
ahead.
an Aboriginal argument about this, which is interesting. This Aboriginal was explained to us why you shouldn't eat your family members. A pig is too genetically related, so you shouldn't eat pork. But then it was explaining more. Well, if you're going to eat that animal, you're going to have to dream its pain the day after you eat it. So you need to meet the fish you're going to spear in the lucid dream the night before and agree to commune memories, and then it's fine. And there's a truth there, I think, about some of the emotion in that animal. So if the animal died in fear, I mean, there's that whole other layer here, which, not to disagree with you, but there is that layered. So you're dealing with that emotion, which unfortunately, if most of our animals did die in fear, so tricky, tricky.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It is. We get into like, again, it's that physiology not caring what the philosophy is. It's
yeah,
it's
that's right.
it, it, you know, you get to pick and choose. Like let's say the animal suffered, but if you don't get enough of whatever, then you suffer.
Mhm.
So we get into like it's what is better, what is worse. Um, but that's where we can it would be good if we were much more in touch with the animals we do consume, and most of
That's
us
right.
know nothing about
And the
them, and
emotions.
most
Yeah,
of us don't care. I mean, people think that meat just magically appears in the grocery store. Like
yeah.
they're
Whereas
literally that dumb.
the farmers all over France are rebelling against the government because the government is killing the cows because of some weird vaccine crap. And
Oh,
the farmer is in love with his animal unconsciously and has empathy and compassion for her. And so this becomes a whole rich tapestry of, oh, are we actually coming to the point of empathy with our food? But I think, Jay, this, by the way, so Garrett Smith is famous, you guys, just so you know, nutritiondetective.com, and he is an expert, and you can see a very deep level of serious scholarship, which I think is fabulous, and I'm grateful to meet you. And that wealth of information, nutritiondetective.com, is amazing. And Garrett has just started here, and we obviously need to talk more about what a low vitamin A diet looks like. But Jason, you had a bit of outline for where you thought this conversation should go, and I don't want to lose that. What have we missed in your major outline so far, if I may ask? Or
Well, we haven't missed much. We haven't missed anything
okay,
actually. What I really wanted to kind of correlate is that the decalcifying effects of drinking magnetic water alone are the same decalcifying effects from eating that low vitamin A diet, not intoxicating you. So, as you know, we could do it technologically, you could say, with
right.
the imploded water, which is great. I'm not saying don't do that. Obviously, we are fractal water. That's what we do. But we should really learn that science that nutrition detective Dr. Garrett Smith is talking about is the vitamin A. Don't calcify your body with the vitamin D and the other supplements, etc., and kind of marry those two. So I think if we learn more of why we're getting sick, right? We don't have to use those band-aids to kind of help us, right? And maybe marrying the two together will help that detox process.
yeah,
So that's really where the crux of this was.
beautiful. And so, Garrett, where you were going with your thoughts, the climax of where you were going, it was in terms of the vitamin A, or in terms of detox, or in terms of designing your diet.
Well, did you want me to go over the basics of the diet, or you just want me to tie it all together and wrap it up?
Well, maybe a little of both. Let's start with the
Okay.
basics of the diet. Yes, sure, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, so if we're talking about simply just vitamin A, like for example, my people in general aren't eating fish or shellfish because it's full of mercury and microplastics and forever chemicals and all that stuff. And we make lots of other choices based on other things than just vitamin A content. But if we were getting into the things that generally we would avoid or minimize in the diet, we get into like with plant foods, it would generally be the strongly, brightly, darkly colored parts of a fruit or vegetable. So if you were talking about, like, for an example, and then the colors that are the worst would be yellow, orange, red, dark green. So as an example, people will say, well, what's left? And I go, okay, so when you think of one of the things we have a huge love for is bananas. And bananas would have a yellow skin, right? But the inside is the colors that are okay in terms of vitamin A within foods would be white, off-white, and light green. So when you think of a banana, the outside's yellow, but we don't eat the outside. We toss that off. And then we eat the inside, which is white to off-white. Or like, let's say a cucumber. You peel the dark green off the cucumber, and then it's fine. We have a lot of people who peel their apples. And so that's like an idea of within the plant world of how we eat. So the list of foods we eat in the plant world in terms of fruits and vegetables is not very big. We do plenty of whole grains and plenty of beans and as people tolerate them. So if somebody tells me they don't tolerate something, I'm saying don't eat it. It's quite simple. Don't force your body to take in something that you obviously know it doesn't work well with. But what we also see on the program is as people eat longer, doing it longer, they tolerate more things, which is a sign of increased resilience, which is a sign of health. So then we get into animal foods that are high in vitamin A. This would tend to be pretty much all dairy, whether it's coming with vitamin A and vitamin D in it or whether it's added. Actually, we had a lady who came on our show a couple weeks ago. She's an airway expert, and she talked about people who are having trouble with their airway. One of the first things they got to do is get rid of dairy. And she didn't distinguish between pasteurized or raw, and I don't either. Do I think raw is better? Better, yes. Necessary or needed? No. So we have dairy. Then we have egg yolks. What color are egg yolks? They're yellow. Egg whites are okay. We don't tend to do them a lot because they have a lot of sulfur in them, and sulfur actually tends to excess sulfur will slow down detox as opposed to what's everybody's told out there. Everybody's told you need sulfur for detox, and I go, there's no shortage of sulfur if you're eating like muscle meat. There's no shortage of sulfur in your diet at all. Then we have organ meats. Organ meats like liver specifically accumulate toxic vitamin A, toxic copper, all sorts of toxins. I mean, if the liver cannot process toxins that are coming in fast enough, so it doesn't put too many toxins in your blood, it stores them. So hopefully, so it can get rid of them later. It's trying to protect you by storing them. It's not doing it because it thinks they're good. So anyway, so liver and kidneys, we don't eat the detox organs. It's very simple. But somebody will say, well, what about tongue or tripe or whatever? And I go, if it's a muscle, that's fine. Like, so tongue would be a muscle. So that's not, muscles don't tend to accumulate toxicity like any other organ do, or like the detox organs do. And then we definitely don't eat the fat off the organs, like what people will talk about. What's the fat off the kidneys? I forget the name for it. But people will eat the fat off the kidneys, and I'm like, no, don't do that. That's not good. You wouldn't want to eat fatty liver. Oh, here's a funny thing about liver, real quick. Fatty liver. If you guys go and look up fatty liver, images of fatty liver on the internet. A normal liver is like that deep burgundy maroon color. Fatty liver, over time, changes from that color towards a much more yellow color. Two things. Vitamin A, is it fat soluble? Storable? Yes. Fatty liver, what color is it? Yellow and fatty. What do you think it's storing a lot of?
A.
Vitamin A is one of the things. And other toxins in nature are commonly yellow. Like things in nature that are yellow are commonly bitter. Bitter is a taste we're supposed to avoid. Like bitter is nature telling you, don't eat this. That's your taste buds saying this is toxic. And we then start to develop a taste for it because we can force ourselves to eat anything. And our body, if we're forced enough, will start accepting it and even craving it. So it's something that we can manipulate natural tendencies in ourselves to allow us to eat or even crave things that are bad for us. We see it every day, all day. What else was there in the animal world? Mainly dairy, organ meats, egg yolks,
And
and that's.
And
Go ahead.
speaking again to the vegetarians here, my partner Valerie, she's very interested in what's called the sattvic diet in India, which is also they eliminate mushroom, onion, garlic, and they're vegetarian. And but to get these benefits in a vegetarian way, but still have enough protein, you have the beans and lentils, I suppose.
Yeah, well, lentils would fall into the beans. Yeah, but
Yeah.
we're not big fans of. I did a whole show on garlic being toxic and being known to be toxic in many
Oh,
cultures,
good. Oh, you just made
and
Valerie's day.
yeah. So onions and garlic, we don't tend to do crucifers. We don't tend to do alliums. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage that stink of sulfur when you cook them, and then onions and garlic. Which the funny thing is that I try to show people that our bodies don't want these things. Is
Uh-huh.
let's say somebody eats onion or they eat garlic and then we can smell it coming out of their pores or coming out of their breath.
You just made Valerie's day. She's smiling over here. She is hypersensitive to smell, whereas I'm
Yep.
hypersensitive to sound. So if you eat the wrong onion or garlic, don't kiss her for a week because
Right. Right. Well, and then I used to get really bad breath from dairy,
yeah,
and dairy's very high in sulfur also. And then you have
yeah.
onions and garlic, and when we smell these things on people's breath, we think it's gross, but when we smell them being cooked, we seem to think it's good. And I go, it's the same smell. Like, why are you doing that? And then the other thing about mushrooms is mushrooms are kind of the detox
Yeah.
organism of the land. So they purposely grab up a bunch of toxicity from the soil.
So
So you
really,
don't really want to eat toxicity sponges, if you will. So,
so
and
yes.
India's not always been known for being the cleanest place. So that might be why they don't eat the
Well,
mushrooms there.
but remember, so our idea is that when metabolic rate and spin density and implosion
Mhm.
and centripetal forces grow, obviously that creates the electric field we call consciousness, that and peak experience and bliss and what Valerie calls ananda. And this is where we're going, that when you do all these things right, you do have a very sharp attention. It's related to the very sharp implosion. So ultimately, that's the indicator of spiritual health success here is that sharpened attention, et cetera. So it's beautiful connections. Yes.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it all fits together. I
Yeah.
mean, we
Yeah.
have we have, people could kind of come to, let's say, a greater spiritual place through practices, and they could come to it by detoxing more and having everything in their system work better.
Yes.
So and then they often we see people where they're coming back from being really sick, and then all of a sudden they want to exercise more. They want to get involved in whatever their religious or faith beliefs are, and
Yoga.
they start, yeah,
Yeah.
they start moving towards these things because
Yeah.
their body wants it and it wants to become better. So that's why I tend to emphasize, like, my expertise is nutrition and detox. Like, if people need, let's say, mental, emotional, spiritual help, that's not my area. I'm always gonna tell them, like, go ahead and do it. Somebody says, can I go get acupuncture? I'll be like, go ahead and do it. Yeah, that's great. Like, you can use all sorts of things to help yourself. This is my area of expertise. Go to the other experts in the other areas, like, which is why we're talking here today. We're talking about the fractal water, the imploded water, because that's your guys' expertise. And I think when I saw the research, and when Jason was talking to me about how he was kind of doing the low vitamin A, he got a lot of benefits of what I was talking about, the low vitamin A diet, and then he kind of did the low vitamin A diet. And I think this is where these things come together, because if the imploded water, the fractal water, helps in its own way, okay,
It's centripetal,
amazing.
massively centripetal. And that's implosive force is the very definition of what we call bliss process, which happens to be my expertise. And we counsel people there, but people can't get there unless they know your detox, et cetera. Well, that's wonderful. But Jason, so then did you want to sort of bring a climax moment there in terms of this was a happily ever after, wasn't it?
It is. So it's great that we do have the imploder for, it's helping you out. That's one band-aid. But a big thing is what Dr. Garrett Smith is talking about. We have to learn that nutrition ourselves, really, and to start avoiding that and to not have to. because this detox process doesn't take, you're not done in a week. This is not something you do a cleanse in a week and you're done. I've been doing this for about a little bit more than a year and a half, right? I can tell you that the first month where I totally eliminate all sources of vitamin A, I felt like a cool wash come over my body, like a calming effect, right? Where normally I'm driving around and you get that road rage, someone cuts you off, you get upset. Now I'm like, oh, that's okay. And
So
really, I think
it had to do with the Italian blood, or
yeah, well, it's the tomatoes and all that other stuff. So,
oh yeah, that's Italian.
yeah, what you could say is that I don't use deodorant anymore, right? Because I got rid of the garlic and onions and stuff, so I don't use deodorant anymore. All I use is your magnesium lotion, right?
Oh, nice.
From Dr. Garrett Smith. That's what I use for my deodorant. So I think, to really wrap this up is this, yes, we have the technology to help you out to start detoxing, etc. But we do need to learn that other portion of it so you don't need to do that. And I think everyone really should go to nutritiondetective.com. There's hair sample analysis you could kind of send in. There's the Love Your Liver program where you could learn more about everything that Dr. Garrett says in depth, right? From the low vitamin A diet to what foods to avoid to, getting on a program protocol, a special one that Dr. Garrett Smith could design for you to help out with any issues that you have. So I think this is a really good marriage of, the technological side plus the understanding. And I think the real key point is that we got to start upgrading our consciousness to start accepting, oh, I made a mistake. I was eating liver for a while. I got to not double down and just keep eating more of it. I need to start upgrading my consciousness to accept other ideas and say, hey, holistically, this is what we need to do in order to be a healthier whole as a person, as a nation, as a country, as a world.
Oh, that's beautiful, Jason. Well, great. Well, Garrett, please, anything you want to conclude, wrap up, summarize, anything at all. We're great. We're so glad that you came to join us, and I'm admiring your expertise.
Well, thank you very much. I'm always happy to come on again. So if you guys want to talk again, I'm happy to come on. I just wanted to say, so I think we all generally have to drink water every day. So if we can make our water, both healthier in terms of what fractal water. I mean, I'm working on installing the imploder here, so I'm super excited to do that. And then I'll have to get another one for if when I move up to Idaho, I'm going to get another one up there. But so I'm super excited to see what this does for me, because I test everything out before I recommend it to my people. So I'm working on that. But the combination of, if we have to take something in, if we have to take in water, and we can make it even more beneficial. So like with water right now, I had been focusing on, let's say, not having toxins in it. So I'm a big fan of distilled water, reverse osmosis. So the minimal, if we're drinking water to get water, we want clean water. So if we're trying to avoid the toxins that way, but if we can also make the water functionally helpful,
Spin
even
charged,
right,
imploded.
Right. So if we can make it healthier by doing this simple process to it, we're just running water through the imploder. That's amazing. How easy is that? And then we can reduce the toxins coming in. Then think of how much extra energy the body's going to have to heal even faster and reach even better states of health. So that's why I think anytime we can improve what we're going to put in our body, or what we literally have to put in our body, it's going to help the process. So, and we have so many things attacking us these days, whether it's EMFs or toxic water or, all the stuff that is going on. The more things we can make work on our side, the better we're going to be, and the less energy we have to put out into fighting all of them. And so we can use more energy for healing and reaching higher states of consciousness, as you're saying. So yeah, so nutritiondetective.com is where you can find all of my stuff. I'm also on Twitter at.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
Oh, I'm also on Twitter at NutriDetect. That's another place I'm active. YouTube is my main. That's where I do my 2-hour live stream every week. We've been doing it for 4 years now straight. But yeah, youtube.com/nutrition detective is where you can find it, in the live tabs where the live streams are, and then the videos, you can find all that. But yeah, we probably got, oh, I don't know, close to 250 videos on there. So, and they're all, I'm a talker, as you can tell. So they're all full of information. And if somebody didn't wanted to learn my stuff without paying anything to invest, just watch those, just invest the time in the live streams, and you can get most all of it for free. You just got to put in the time. So
That's great. We admire the depth of your obvious research and that you've gone to places that conventional medicine knew that vitamin A was a toxin, but they didn't explain how deep and messy that problem is and the connections to vitamin D and what to do about it. And you've done the homework, and that is wonderful. And we're grateful. Thank you for being with us so much. I just want to say one, maybe something of an afterthought. So the imploder builds centripetal force, and that's what creates the solubility, hydration, and bioavailability effect and relates to the ability to detox. And as your metabolism becomes to perfection with people like Garrett Smith, you create that centripetal force as peak perception, peak metabolism, et cetera. And I just wanted to say, we have another group of technologies called plasma, which is now phyray.com, PHRAY.com, which is also phase conjugate two spirals, implosive, massively centripetal. And I just want to say that a glass of water between those two plasma tubes, they know the difference immediately, or the glass of wine. The taste is very much like that imploder. Actually, the plasma is a bit more expensive. The imploder is cheaper, but Phyray has all the other aspects, which is also magnetic. And by the way, phase conjugate magnetics. So restored centripetal forces actually, in a way, applies to everything we've talked about today, because the centripetal forces are negentropic, which is self-organizing, and that is my specialty, fractalgut.com, the origin of self-organization, as it were. So it's lovely how all these things fit together. And again, I'm so delighted that Jason brought us together here today. You know, when Jason came over here in France a few years ago, he turned us on to all kinds of things in the health area. Like Jason taught me that the seed oils were a problem. I learned that from Jason. And then when Jason came to me later, he said, oh, work on the prostate thing, you better check that vitamin A stuff. And then he started talking about Garrett Smith, and here we are. So anyway, just can't thank you enough, Garrett, and we must do this again. We will share this video with you and worldwide. Thank you, Jason. Do you want to say anything else? Any last thoughts here, guys? Are we good?
Nope. Just thank you, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
yeah, I'm good. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody too. And yeah, I'm happy to come back on. Just let me know.
Garrett, you have great energy and great research. Thank you, sir. You're our team. We like it. Blessings. Take care.
So all those links will be on the bottom of this video for
Yes.
everything Dr. Garrett Smith does.
Yeah, the links are in the notes. Thank you. Blessings. See you again soon. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye. Blessings.
Bye.